Alright folks, here we go. This is the best XYZ Festival Zoodiac deck right now. If not the best XYZ Festival Master Duel deck that will ever exist, you know, such bold claims, but that's because these little Zoodiac monsters, bless their hearts, they enable us to special summon the boss monsters in our extra deck with extreme ease. We can efficiently summon something like a Zeus, for example, or a Drident, and we can really quickly end duels, and it's very hard to catch this deck out of position. Maybe if you bricked, which is extremely rare, or maybe you misplayed, or once in a while, hey, things just go against you and your opponent is better than you, which is perfectly fine. But the point is, this deck is incredible. You'll see in the footage as well afterwards. So right off the bat, I normally go into like super intricate detail about every single card in the deck. I'm gonna do a different approach here. A, you probably know a lot of these cards. B, if you don't necessarily need to know every single detail about them if you're brand new. So I encourage you to read all of the Zoodiac effects on your own time, and I encourage you to get familiar with them. But the reason why I'm not going into super intricate detail is because they are largely interchangeable, and the main purpose for them is to simply get on the field so that we can bring out something like Zeus. Now, there is nuance there, and again, you can benefit from the individual effects, but I encourage you to read that on your own time if you don't know it already, because if you're just starting and you're completely unfamiliar with this stuff, it's not going to help you to try to process like 16,000 different effects at once. Again, the purpose of the Zoodiacs is you put them on the field and then you overlay cards on top of them to get to your boss monsters, which you'll see in the video. And you do have some combos where you can, like, you know, make magic happen with Zoodiac Thoroughblade and Ramram. I'll show that in action in just a moment. Let's talk about the rest of the deck. So you got your Maxx C, you got your Ash Blossom, absolutely must-run cards in your deck. There's really nothing more to say about them. If you don't know what they do, you can check out my other videos. Very useful hand trap Ash Blossom. You can stop any of these three effects. And then Maxx C obviously gives you immense draw power and can help shape the rest of the duel. Now, I run 2 Nibiru, though to be honest with you, haven't had a single use case for it yet. The reason why I run 2 Nibiru is because what if I come up against a deck like this? Or another deck that special summons a bajillion monsters and I need to pop them with Nibiru. The thing about Nibiru is that, like, in the XYZ format, people are playing a lot more chill, I've noticed, at least so far. It's still early. People aren't so crazy about the meta of this format yet. So Nibiru is not as useful. I still run it just as protection. And I think it will become more useful as the more casual festival players drop off and we're just left with the more hardcore decks. Next up, I got the Harpie's Feather Duster. Gotta have that to pop back row. I'm running Monster Reborn as well, which can be an amazing combo extender. Also helps if you can Monster Reborn one of your opponent's boss monsters always. I got just one of Avarice. I experimented with 2, and I also experimented with multiple Lightning Storms. Didn't like it as much because a lot of times Tenki will prevent you from using Lightning Storm. But basically Avarice lets you draw 2 cards if you can take 5 of your monsters from your graveyard and shuffle them back into the deck. So it's one of those like last resort type of cards. You can also run 3 Pot of Desires, which I recommend. So not only does it help thin out your deck, but obviously you can draw 2 cards. Obviously, Pot of Desire, I know people in other videos have talked about how it can be a little bit risky. The odds of it screwing you over if you're using it at the start of the duel, they're not high. I can count on maybe like one hand that I've gotten screwed over in the past few weeks by Pot of Desire, so it's not a big deal. Lightning Storm, like I said, I only run 1 of it now currently. I did run 2 before, I even tried with 3, but it just clashes with Tenki so much because you can't use Lightning Storm when Tenki's on the field. So that's why I'm just running 1, make it more situational. Then I got 3 Mystical Space Typhoons. You can run Cosmic Cyclone if you want. It's pretty much, you know, it's basically a better Mystical Space Typhoon, but it costs 1,000 life points. The reason why I'm running this is because I never made Cosmic Cyclones for any other meta decks. So why spend that extra cost on the XYZ Festival? It's not necessary. People aren't going as ham, so Mystical Space Typhoon, it gets the job done. But again, if you have better options, then by all means feel free to use them. Next up, Called by the Grave, another card that's amazing, but I haven't had to use too much so far. So you know the deal. You basically banish your opponent's monster from the graveyard, and then it's basically dead for 2 turns in the sense that, like, they can't use that effect from a different monster that they have if it's the same name. Why am I failing at explaining Called by the Grave? basically, you banish your opponent's monster from the graveyard. They can't really use the effect of that same monster if they have another copy. There we go. Jesus Christ. Next up, I'm running 2 Forbidden Droplet. I would have maybe run 3, but I already had 2 from before. And again, I'm like, why run 3 for just the XYZ Festival? It's not like the biggest thing in the world. It's for fun, plus you get gems out of it. So I'm running 2. You can run 3. If you do run 3, you can probably get rid of this Solemn Judgment, or if you're not a big fan of Lightning Storm, Strike, whatever, Storm, you can get rid of that as well. So of course, Forbidden Droplet just lets you basically negate your opponent's effects, have their attacks. It's wonderful. And then of course, must have 3 Infinite Impermanence. And then like I said, I do run Solemn Judgment here. I find it quite useful. It saved my bacon. And if you have 3 Forbidden Droplets, you can just run 3 of them instead of Solemn Judgment or maybe Lightning Storm. Now, in the extra deck, this is a must-have, so Utopic Future, you can ignore its effect. For the most part, like 99.9% of the time, you're bringing this out on the field just to bring out your boss monster. So, you have 2 XYZ monsters with the same rank, right? Like 2 level 4 XYZ from your extra deck. You bring out Utopic Future, and then immediately you overlay Utopic Draco Future over it. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Amazing. And then once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate that activation, and take control of that monster if it was on the field. Oh my goodness, this card is incredible. It's amazing. This card makes children cry. It's so good. It's so good, I'm about to cough. Oh my god, I'm holding it in. I'm holding it in. Try to do these in 1 take. It's not always successful. But anyway, Utopic Draco is by far our best boss monster. You also got Tigermortar here. Again, it's got effects, but you're not too concerned about them. This is another one of those cards where I'm saying you can read this on your own time. Usually you're just overlaying on top of Tigermortar and doing other things in order to get to another boss monster. You're not necessarily using its effect so much, but it is useful. So make sure you do read up on those effects in case you need to use them. I recommend it. I'm not saying don't read. I'm not saying don't learn your cards. Just this video doesn't need to be 3 hours long. Drident is amazing. Drident will get rid of 1 card on the field that's face up, and you can only use its effect once per turn, but you can also overload your Drident with your Whiptails and stuff like that in order to create a super powerful Drident. Next up, 2 Boarbows. Basically, you attack life points, and then you go into your main phase 2 to get to Zeus. You know that combo from my other videos. If you don't, you will see it soon, don't worry. Hammerkong, to be honest with you, never used it for anything other than overlaying cards on top of it. It does have an effect, obviously, that can come in handy. So again, like with all Zoodiacs, I want you to think of them as one big interchangeable army. Definitely learn the effects in your own time. This video doesn't need to be 3 hours long. We got Zoodiac Chaka, which is super handy for comboing and bringing things back and basically working our way up to Utopic Draco when we can't do it in other ways. We got this B thing here, which is really good. It's a great card to summon sort of like when you're closing out a match, because if it attacks a defense position monster, it does piercing battle damage, and basically if it gets destroyed, you can bring something back from the graveyard. Now keep in mind, you cannot use this bad B, I don't know. I tried to go for a pun, but I think I failed. It didn't sound good when I said it. You can't use this as an XYZ material itself. Where does it say that? Am I blind? Am I blind? Am I really blind? Oh, there, that's where it says that. This card cannot be used as material for an XYZ summon. Because as I was saying it, I was like, wait a minute, is that true? And yeah, it is true. Obviously, you can use it on the next turn if you plan ahead. So that just leaves us with Zeus here. And Zeus is, of course, amazing. You build your way up to it, which I'll show you how in a second if you don't know. You don't need 2 level 12 monsters, and then you can blow up the entire board. This deck just runs a train on everything else in the XYZ format. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. All right, enough talk. Actually, I lied. One more piece of talk. Summary. So remember, think of your Zoodiacs as an interchangeable army to special summon your boss monsters. I do recommend you make sure you read all of the effects on your Zoodiacs, but if you're new to the game, it's going to overload you. Just think of them as little army pieces. Let's move on to the gameplay, shall we? Alright, so in this first example, this is actually the very first time I summoned our boss monster, and as you can see from the gameplay, I'm a little bit hesitant, I'm a little bit unconfident. I didn't actually ever play this back in the TCG days or anything like that, so this is a completely new experience for me, so I just wanted to be careful here. And like I've said in other videos, I have a tendency to get too excited about the boss monster and then misplay on my way to it. But basically, we play Pot of Desires at the start here, and I'm going to use Tenki because I want to get Thoroughblade because I already have Ramram in the hand. Thoroughblade is going to go onto the field, and basically what we're going to do here, we're going to get rid of Ramram. And the reason why we're doing that, well, it will become apparent in a moment as we combo further, but this also lets us draw a card. We get another Thoroughblade, which is wonderful. We can use that to Xyz summon something in the future, but right now what we want to do is we want to put Chakanine on top of Zoodiac Thoroughblade, and this will allow us to use Chakanine's effect. Basically, you get rid of Thoroughblade, and the reason why we're doing that is because we want to bring back Ramram. And why do we want to bring back Ramram? Well, that's because Ramram is going to lead into a combo here. So we are first going to bring out Drident on top of Chakanine, but as you can see here, I'm like scrolling, I'm like thinking like, do I really want to commit to this? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so new at this. Teach me, senpai. And then, you know, the confidence comes in and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna make Drident. Any second here. Any second, guys. Any freaking second. Always good to be acquainted with your cards, though. I was just very excited at this point. Like I said, very unconfident. So you can see me trying to figure this out. And hey, for everybody that's watching right now, that's like, why are you showing me this? Well, a lot of you said you don't like it when I fast forward through the boring parts of a duel or cut away from them. So this is what it's like, folks. You got me vamping for like 2 minutes while I try to figure out for the first time ever if I'm doing the right play, and my peanut eldritch brain is like breaking, falling apart. So if you don't like this approach and you want me to go back to fast forwarding and cutting the boring bits, let me know and I will happily do that. Saves you time, honestly. So we got Drident on the field now, right? And what we're supposed to do here is we're supposed to actually destroy our Ramram with the Drident. So we're going to use Drident's effect, we're going to destroy the Ramram, and then once we do that, we basically activate the effect that Ramram has when it gets destroyed like this. So when it gets destroyed by a battle or card effect, Ramram lets us bring back a card from the graveyard. And what we're doing here is we're bringing back Zoodiac Chaka. Why? Sorry, I just had to take a big breath there. Why we're doing this? Because we needed to summon Utopic Future. And the reason why we summon Utopic Future is because we needed to get to our big boss monster, Utopic Draco Future Magic, whatever the hell it's called. So you can see it here in its beautiful glory, Utopic Draco Future number FO. And this thing is incredible because it basically is invincible. It can't really be destroyed easily. It's not, you know, nothing is truly invincible in Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's be real here. But you can't really destroy it easily. You can't just, you know, blow it up with card effects, all that good stuff. You can also basically take control of your opponent's monster with it and negate its effects in the process. So yeah, Draco's amazing. That's why it's our boss monster. We could watch the rest of this duel, but I don't think there's any value in that. It's just me using Draco's effects and then attacking and winning over and over again. I think you get the picture, but if you do want to see more gameplay of this deck in action, let me know and I can upload more videos about it. Let's move on to the next clip. Alright, so in this clip we have a full pendulum board on the opponent's side of the field, and to be honest, I started reading these cards, but I was like, it's the XYZ Festival, let's just have fun. Who cares if we lose because we didn't read? That's our own fault, right? So I didn't actually read all of the effects. I just decided I'm going to use Droplet and then negate the 3 most powerful cards on there and assume that what I'm doing is correct, because there's just no way that a pendulum deck like this, or whatever this deck is even, is going to stand up to Zoodiacs. So I felt pretty confident. It's kind of that blind confidence, but it's also that game sense that you develop over time. If you're lighting me up in the comments right now because I did this and I didn't read the cards and I probably used too many materials or monsters for Droplet, take a deep breath. It's okay. We're just playing XYZ for fun. You are welcome to play properly and cerebrally on your own time. We're just doing this because it's fun, but really I want to show you what happens when the opponent has like a full board and how you can deal with it with this deck. So we put down one of our Zoodiacs. I think that's the bunny. I can't tell. I'm looking at a tiny screen right now. But the opponent tries to use whatever effect that T-Sulk Forward Beautia or whatever has, but we already negated that from before, remember? So it's completely futile. It's completely pointless. Now, we go into Boarbow here. And the reason why we do that is because we need to have an XYZ monster that attacks. I'm not going to mess with attacking the actual monsters. Who knows what effects they have? I didn't read them. I don't care. I'm just going to battle here and attack the life points directly, which is what Boarbow can do. So now, you go into main phase 2, and when I say I didn't read, I did glance at it, by the way, just for the record. I didn't completely not read it. And we go into main phase 2 because we're stacking up to Zeus. So Zeus, to be summoned, it needs an Xyz monster to have battled and basically lived to tell the tale. So from here on out, we're just overlaying basically as many cards as it makes sense, and then we're going to get into Zeus. And because you guys don't want me to cut away, I'm going to take a sip of water now, and you guys can watch this happen. Okay, I can't keep my mouth shut. I can't just sit here and let like 20 seconds of the video go completely silent while Zeus gets summoned. But for real though, like all jokes aside, if you prefer this method over the like me speeding up the useless parts of the duel or what I see as useless, let me know, and I can just stick to this format. But as you can see there, we completely cleared the board with Zeus. And you can use this against any deck. It doesn't matter that they were like some weird pendulum thing or whatever, but we completely cleared the board there. And from here on out, the opponent doesn't have anything that they can do. To be honest, I don't even remember what I did for the rest of the duel. I know that we won, but from this point on, you can basically get a Drident out onto the field. You can get anything that you want out into the field. You got 2 Tenkis, so you have limitless options. We're not going to watch the end of this duel because there's just no value to it, but you could special summon any one of your basically extra deck monsters from this point out. All right, let's move on to one last clip. All right, so in this clip, I wanted to show you a slightly different way of how you can get to your Utopic Draco Future, whatever. And basically right now it's on their turn, so we're just using Drident because we already have them on the field. So for this example, Drident's already there. You need Drident for this to work. Or I guess you need another Xyz monster. You don't necessarily need Drident. You know what I mean, just any other level 4 Zoodiac Xyz from your deck. So it's our turn now, and we have a Zoodiac in our hand, which is great. This is going to make it really simple to get to what we need to get to. All we need to do at this point is just put our Zoodiac onto the field, and then we can overlay an Xyz on it, and then we can just end up with our super boss monster. So in this case, I got Whiptal. Whiptal's effect, you know, I could have added it to Drident to power up Drident, but not necessary for this case. So now I can just put anything on top of Whiptal. Well, just make sure it's level 4, make sure it's one of your Zoodiacs, which should be pretty much everything in your extra deck. And then you have your 2 Zoodiacs that you want, so you can now get your first Utopic card on the field. I always forget its name because I never really look at it. Utopic Future, that's what it is. And then after that, you just get Utopic Draco Future onto the field. So it's just like a really simple example of how you can get your Draco Future out there with any card. It doesn't have to be in that other combo that I showed. If you already have an Xyz on your field and you can play something else, you can always end up with your Utopic Draco Future. Thanks everybody for watching. If you want to see more content for this deck specifically, more combos, maybe some slightly more advanced stuff. It's not that much more advanced, this deck, but there are some other elements that I could show you if you want. You don't really need them to dominate the XYZ Festival, but let me know in the comments if you want to see more, and I will happily make more. Thanks everybody for watching. Like and subscribe if you had a good time or whatever. Share it with your friends. Give your mom a hug. I don't know how to end a video. Goodbye.